Hello, my name is Mr. Chipman. I teach biology and AP biology at Murray High School in Murray, Kentucky. We are still meandering through Unit 1, Chemistry of Life, looking at 1.4 carbohydrates. It's one of those new sections that the College Board added. Looking at carbohydrates specifically, which I think is going to be helpful for us. Get some Minecraft crafting patterns there. Are you one of those people that puts the wheat in the middle three or the top three when you make your bread? Just thoughts. So let's look at a carb. So here's a carbohydrate. Here's a standard carbohydrate. A couple things about carbohydrates. These are organic molecules. We use the word organic to talk about chemistry of carbon, right? And because we're going to deal with a lot of carbon. The word carbon is right there in carbohydrates, so it's really helpful. We have carbo, which is carbon. We have hydrate, which is water, which is H2O. What do you find in carbohydrates? You find carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. That's it. So one of the ways that you can know that you're dealing with a carbohydrate is that those are the only three molecules that you find in it. And what's going to make them different from lipids, which we're going to learn about, is that the carbons and the oxygens are always in equal proportion, right? They're going to be, if there's 6 carbons, there's going to be 6 oxygens. Hydrogens are a little bit difficult to kind of guess. They don't always follow this pattern. Usually it's 2 times the number of carbons. Not always. You got to be careful, particularly as longer chains get involved. But carbons and oxygens are always going to be equal with carbohydrates. What is the primary role of the carbohydrate? I don't know if I have a slide for this. Let's see. I do. I probably should look at this before I start filming the video. Carbohydrates' main thing is for energy storage and structural support and cellular communication. We're going to look at several things there. But when I think of carbohydrates, I think of the primary energy source for living things. And so carbohydrates are an easy energy source for living things. Most living things will default to carbs, right, towards this easy source of energy that the body breaks down very easily. Of course, that's not always the case. We're going to look at some examples of that, how that's different and why that's different. I think it's very important to talk about that. So let's move on talking about carbohydrates then. The monomers of carbohydrates are called monosaccharides. These are also called simple sugars because they're just one sugar. The word simple meaning one here. Glucose, fructose are some examples. Galactose, if you want to be more into the space-aged sugars, it's not a space-aged sugar. These are the basic building blocks of carbohydrates, right? They serve as immediate energy sources. Glucose is a very immediate energy source. Fructose, very immediate energy source. Polysaccharides are the polymer of carbohydrates, and these are going to be 2 or more of sometimes you'll see it called a disaccharide. I think it's confusing. I like just polysaccharide. It's 2 or more, right? You have multiple monomers joined together. How they joined, remember that? Dehydration synthesis is good. And they're going to be formed for different reasons, different things. You're going to see different structures, which we're going to talk about. Let's look at some monosaccharides. Glucose, really common. We're going to talk a lot about glucose. Glucose is sort of the cell's go-to for energy. We're going to talk a whole unit about glucose, really. Unit 3, where we talk about photosynthesis, cellular respiration, how glucose is either made or broken down. Very important. Fructose is found in fruit. It's a readily available sort of sugar that is very easy to process by our bodies. And galactose, it's part of lactose found in milk. It's very common in animals, particularly mammals, who make that. Some disaccharides, let's look at that. Again, I don't like this term, but you will see it, so we're going to go over it. It's just 2 pieces, right? Sucrose is 2 monomers. Lactose, 2 monomers. Maltose, 2 monomers. Sucrose is table sugar, milk sugar, malt sugar. Polysaccharides, some examples here that are important. So polysaccharides, typically the word is going to be used for these longer chains, big old molecules that you see. Some very important ones that we'll look at are starch. Starch is, there's 2 different starches here actually. These are typically found in plant cells, right? And in plants, they're going to store their carbs using starch, whereas animals store their carbs using glycogen. Cellulose is another important carbohydrate, but the interesting thing about cellulose is it's found in plant cell walls, and it is largely indigestible by a lot of mammals. They can't digest it, whereas they can digest starch, right? You can digest a potato just fine, but you can't digest the potato skin or bark. Potatoes don't have bark. But like a lot of the cell wall structure goes undigested. We have to have special enzymes in order to digest those. Here's an example, something called chitin. Chitin is a carbohydrate that is oftentimes found in exoskeletons of like arthropods, insects, that sort of thing. It's also what fungal cell walls are made out of as well, is chitin. A couple things as far as applications are concerned. Energy storage. So in our own bodies, glycogen is used to store carbohydrates, but think short-term storage, right? Think carbs are needed sometimes really quickly. So like let's think of an adrenaline sort of situation. Then the liver will store that glycogen and will cause it to be released all at once. It's a quick burst of energy. The muscles also will keep a store of glycogen as well in order to be able to use that energy quickly. And then if you deplete that energy, then of course you need to be able to bring it back up, right, and sort of store it again. And that's very important, that sort of flow of energy and storage of carbs. But carb storage is not long-term. We're going to talk more about long-term energy storage in just a little bit, structural support. So interesting thing here to talk about, I think is very important. And we're going to talk more about this as we go throughout the year. But one of the things that's a very important concept in this class, and you've heard me say this already on one of these videos, is that the shape of a molecule determines its function. So look at the starch and the cellulose here. Starch, they're all holding hands, right? These are individual glucose molecules, and they're all holding them down. Starch is something that we can break down really, really readily. You know, you put a piece of starch on your tongue, and it's already starting to break down. The enzymes in your saliva actually will start cutting that starch up into its individual parts. Cellulose is not the same thing, but it is the same thing. It's made up of glucose as well, but notice what's happening. Every other set of hands are being held up. So you have like this sort of thing, and you have this sort of thing. That one change in shape completely changes the way that cellulose interacts with itself, interacts with other molecules, interacts with enzymes in our own bodies. Our bodies are not able to deal with cellulose, but a cow is able to deal with cellulose, which makes sense because they eat grass, right? And so look, this cellulose like stacks. So wouldn't you be, if you're going to build something, isn't that much better than, say, you know, this amylopectin, right, which is not going to be a good builder, or this loop-de-loop right here, amylose. It's not going to be a good builder, right? This nice little brick is going to be a good builder. And so cellulose is good, and the reason it's a brick and not something else is because the hands are different. Don't write that on the exam. Probably just the shape of the bonds, shape of the molecule, but the hands, for instance, helps me. Again, molecule shape determines its function. Very important concept in this class all year long. That will be something we'll continue to go back to. And cellular communication. Carbohydrates are found on the surface of cells. So let's use our context clues. Right? You have proteoglycan. What is a proteoglycan? Glycan sounds like something to do with sugar, right? Proteo has something to do with proteins. Okay, probably something along those lines. What about glycoproteins, right? Glyco, right? Protein makes sense. Glycolipids, glycophingolipids. I don't know what phingolipids are, but glycolipids are common. These are like little, think of them as like little hands or like little flags the cell is holding up so that the cells can talk to each other. You know, it's sort of like putting like a little flag over your head because people do that all the time. It's a way of like communicating, right? These little handholds that are all over the cell. Cells can talk to each other using that, and these are just carbs mixed with other things. And so very important portion of cellular communication. hey, here's some practice. Let's look at it together. Pause the video if it helps, and I'll read the prompt, and we'll do that right now. Student compares 3 samples of carbohydrate polymers, each composed of identical monomers, but differing in the number of monomers they contain. Okay, so there's similar composition, but different at the same time. Student predicts that sample C, which has the most monomers, will release the most energy when fully broken down. Interesting. Which of the following best justifies the student's prediction? So before we go on, this is a very important question type that you'll see. A claim has been made, and then which of the following best justifies the student's claim? Very, very important skill for this class. And so this is a great test question. Not that you're going to see it on a test if you're my student, but this is a great type of question that you'll see on the exam. Which the following best justifies prediction. So you have the student's thought was that it's going to release the most energy based on the fact that there's a lot more bonds, right? That's the thing that we know. Longer polymer has more bonds, can be broken during hydrolysis, resulting in a greater energy release. That's a true statement. I don't need to go on. There it is. I even put out a little note out here to the side. Each bond stores chemical energy, more monomers, more bonds, more total energy, more better. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you did, let me know. If you have questions about the content, also, anytime, please ask those questions in the comments. I love getting your questions and answering them. It's what I do for a living. Hopefully this was helpful. 1.5 is coming soon.